Welcome back to another season. I finally found a day today where it's sunny and not blowing like a million miles an hour on the wind, which is hard to find here in the springtime. But I thought today we would go over just a couple things, a few plans for the season on the front yard golf course. I want to take some soil temps and also get some soil samples for a soil test that I'm doing. And we'll just take a look at some of the plots here and see how things are going so far. Gonna test some soil temps here quick just to see. Looks like sitting at about 50.9. That's closer to the surface. Let's see if I can go down a little farther into the soil. That's sitting at about 46-ish right there. So yeah, right about 46. So for those of you wanting to time out your pre-emergent applications, we're getting close, but you need to be on a trend where everything's looking like the temperatures are going to start to move upward. So right now I'm seeing in the forecast this weekend it's going to get a little cooler again, some lows in the 20s. That should bring the temperature for the soil temp down again. Usually here I'm not applying till maybe late March or so I'm not too worried about it at this point, but I will keep monitoring just to make sure that if the trends are earlier this season, as far as that temperature going up, if you want to get your pre-emergent down right around that time frame when temps are hitting 50 but starting to rise and continuing to rise, that'd be a good timing for it. Now, also taking a closer look at this plot, I do see quite a bit of greening here in this ryegrass plot. So if I were to come in here, take most of this brown stuff off of the top as far as mowing goes, it would be very, very green underneath. But as I said, we do have some more freezing temps coming with the 20s. So then I'm probably gonna get some frost burn on it again. So basically after I see that the temps aren't going to be freezing consistently is when I'll start to mow, just knowing that things should stay pretty green at that point. Now, one thing I did notice is that the edges always green up faster because I have this mulch area here, and I also have a black barrier under here as far as weed fabric goes. So this warms up quite a bit. This mulch is fairly warm, so I just am curious to see what the difference might be on these edges. Really not a drastic difference, but it is warmer by about 3 degrees on these edges. So that's probably why we're getting closer now to the 55 mark on these edges. Things should start to green up pretty nicely. Nothing else too crazy going on as far as plots. These ones here are the low cut plots, and they usually turn greener faster than everything else just because the excess brown material that's on some of the other plots that happens during winter is not here just because of the height of cut. Also, the sunlight gets down onto the ground, warms things up faster just because there's not that excess material up on top. This one right here happens to be Kentucky bluegrass, which is already greening pretty nicely, but it stayed fairly green throughout the winter. If you didn't see, I did a little short on that not too long ago, show you what things were looking like right after the snow had melted. This will be my first season with a couple of different warm season grasses. So this is buffalo grass. Just want to show you though the color difference of that versus my cool season stuff that, yeah, it gets brown, but not this brown, definitely. Have some weeds coming in through here, which we can deal with later on. I'll be interested though to see how this looks this year. This larger ryegrass plot right back here got pretty destroyed last year. Fungus happened late summer, and also it was very, very dry, so I just let it go and pretty much wanted to see what would recover. And right now I can definitely tell it's going to be very patchy. So a nice overseed on this will probably be what it needs in order to look its best again. We're still in a level 2 drought coming out of winter, which is not really a good scenario. I'm hoping that we can somehow get out of this trend for this season and get back to our normal rainfall at least every once in a while during the summer. Got our non-irrigated plots over here. Everything seems to be normal and looking good on these. So right here, these were my last 2 plots that I had as far as this whole little plot playground thing that I have going on down here. These are both planted with ryegrass, but I'm gonna do something specific with this front one. Then the second half, I have another thing to show you coming up here this spring. So stay tuned for that. These 2 are gonna be just a couple more experiments and some interesting things going on with these. Then of course, this larger one right here is a bluegrass monostand. It's starting to warm up here on the edges, and you can see this right here is starting to green up very nicely. Then we have 2 plots just coming by the driveway of ryegrass. Nothing very special there, just an area that I wanted to look nice as soon as you drive into the driveway. All right, so in behind me here, we have the front yard golf course area. Of course, building is way up there, and this is a wide angle lens, so it looks like it's a million miles away, but it's probably about 140 yards or so from where I'm standing. That's gonna be 140 to 150 is about the longest tee shot that I think I will have coming into here. But this past weekend, I wanted to film this, but it was so windy that I couldn't get a drone out and I could not get a camera to even stand up. We had gusts over 50 miles an hour, but I was out here because it was almost 80 degrees and I want to get a sense of where the green is going to go, try to figure out the shape, and so I scalped that thing down out here, and you can see just how green it is underneath this sort of brown turf that was there on top from just the winter frost and all the snow sitting on it. But it's about 2,500 square feet is what I think I'm going to do for the green. So I haven't figured out exactly how I'm going to do that yet, but because of our soil being very sandy, I'm thinking that I might attempt to do a more native soil type thing, start top dressing some sand on top of it with that, but we'll see. I have to figure that out yet. And I have to get the sense of this as far as the layout so I can start to build that and also figure out the irrigation and how all that stuff is going to go in. So I don't know how fast this is going to get done this season. I would love to say I could just get it done here in the next month or so and it'd be all ready, but I don't know if that's really going to happen. I have a lot of irrigation stuff to figure out here yet, and my plan is to have like a little fairway here down the middle. I've marked that out, and then I have 9 different tee boxes, so just at varying distances. Like I said, the farthest one is about 150, and I mowed those, so I have a sense of where those are at too, and I think I have a pretty good layout going for that. You'll get a sense of it here in the next month or so once everything starts to green up and I start to mow all the sections at the height that they're going to be mowed at. Up here now on the main front lawn, or what I call the main stage, it's hard to believe that a year ago this wasn't even here at all, but today I want to check the soil temp up here, and then I also want to get a quick soil sample from a few different spots. Last year the pH was a little low up here, but since we had done so much movement of soil and disturbed a whole bunch of things, I wanted to let it settle for a year, do my program, and then come back here and do a soil sample this season just to see where things are at. And if it is still low, then I can do some adjustment at that point. But I want to get that done today, get those sent in so I can start to figure out what's going on up here. So up near the surface, we're at about 51. Let's see if we can go farther down into the soil. There, we're sitting about 48.5. Now I'll get these soil samples going. I've made a video about this kit. It's the RX soil kit that I use. So if you want the step-by-step on how all that works, I already have made a couple videos on that. I'll link that down in the description of this video if you want to check that out. So I'll just grab my samples from various places in the yard, put them in the bag that's provided, ship it off. You just register your kit and look at your results right there. Very easy to use. Here's a rather interesting thing off this first plug that I pulled. You don't typically see this too much on ryegrass, but there's a pretty decent thatch layer here. I was doing a pretty heavy fertilizer program on my first season just to try to get this thing going, and it's very likely that I was probably over fertilizing a bit too, which will change as we go along, but that's a very healthy thatch layer there. Probably need to work on that a little bit this season. I took probably about 6 cores down to about 6 inches into the soil, so I took that top piece off, the thatchy stuff. I'm just going to break all these up now, and then all of the roots that are in here, as much as possible, I'm going to get rid of those, and then I will put this, what's left, into my sample bag and send it off. The final section we'll look at today is the shade section, and this also took on some damage last season from some of the drought that happened. I'm actually pretty surprised it held on as well as it did, considering the lack of rain and the amount of traffic that kind of comes through this section here with animals and deer and everything. Definitely some spots here where it looks like there was some damage enough that I'm probably going to have to do a fix down here. I'm actually probably going to get going on that fairly soon so that I can get some of the seed down if I'm going to do an overseed before all this tree canopy comes back and it gets really shady. So as soon as it looks like it's going to be enough to germinate this, I'm probably going to get down here, maybe do an aerate on this section, maybe drag it, smooth it out again, and then just do an overseed down here. And I think we should be back in shape. It's not terrible by any means as far as the damage that occurred, but I wanted to look back to the pristine look that it had before we got into all that drought. Well, that is the tour for today. I got some fun projects coming up, so I hope you'll stick around. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.